Welcome back to another episode of Third and 23, where I don't just talk about football, but I bet on it. I'm your host, Alex, here bringing you another college football futures video where we're focused on conference championship winners, but not necessarily the favorites, but the teams that offer the best value. We're looking at the SEC, Big Ten, ACC, and Big 12, all P4 teams. I'm going to give you one team in each conference that I believe offers good value that wouldn't be, while I'm not necessarily picking them to win the conference, it wouldn't be bad to sprinkle a few dollars on them because in case the ball bounces right this season. So let's go into it. Let's start off with the SEC and LSU. LSU coming into this season is plus 1,000. They're tied for the fourth best odds to win the SEC, tied with Ole Miss. And I was kind of surprised at plus 1,000. I expected LSU to have better odds than this. I thought it would be more like plus 500, plus 600. They've got Heisman frontrunner Garrett Nussmeier back at quarterback, senior quarterback who's probably coming into this season as the top quarterback in the SEC. Some people are going to say Arch Manning, DJ Lagway. Those QBs have higher ceilings. Those quarterbacks are probably going to be better NFL draft prospects when it's their time. But as of right now, coming into this season, I'm going with the senior. I'm going with the vet, Garrett Nussmeier, as being the top quarterback in the SEC. And if you follow LSU, you know they're always flush with skill position talent. And this season is going to be no different. At running back, they have Caden Durham back. He was a freshman stud last year. Should take a big leap forward in his sophomore year. Explosive running back. And on the outside, they have Aaron Anderson. Next up in a long line of top wide receivers coming out of LSU. And they hit the portal and got some guys on the outside to give them some help, to take some pressure off. And they still have some depth back. Guys like Nick Anderson, transferred in from Oklahoma, a big wide receiver. He was hurt for a majority of last season. He should be healthy coming back this season, giving another weapon for Garrett Nussmeier to take advantage of. I know LSU has to retool their offensive line. They lost a bunch of guys to the NFL. So that could be a reason why it's sitting at plus 1,000. And that's an obstacle that they're going to have to navigate. But you cannot discredit or discount the quarterback skill position talent that LSU has on the offensive side of the ball. Then you look at defensively, LSU has struggled over the last few years defensively. Finally, in 2024, they were a little improved, but they still have a ways to go. This season, they hit the portal, or this offseason, they've hit the portal. They hit two big time transfer additions. They got Jack Pyburn, defensive end, edge rusher from Florida, and they got Patrick Payton, edge rusher from Florida State. Two guys who have shown throughout their career that they can bring the heat, collapse the pocket, and harass the quarterback. So those are big time additions for LSU. I think those two guys are going to help the entire defense. All on the back end, allowing those coverage guys take some pressure off the secondary players. They won't have to cover as long. And then even at linebacker, guys like Whit Weeks and Harold Perkins Jr. actually back as well. Uh, Taking some pressure off those guys, freeing them up to be able to make plays rather than getting engulfed by blockers, right? So the way I see it, I believe coming into this season, I thought LSU was going to be. I still believe LSU is a legitimate college football playoff contender. So sitting at plus 1,000, this is a team in an SEC that, while it does have one big favorite in Texas, the rest of, if you make it to the SEC championship game, you got a shot. As far as whoever's underneath Texas in that pecking order, LSU has a really good opportunity to be that second team. And if you get to the title game, anything can happen. So at plus 1,000, I don't think that's a bad bet, putting a few dollars down on LSU. Next up, we're going to go to the ACC, where we're going to talk the Louisville Cardinal. So Louisville, they lose Tyler Shugg at quarterback to the NFL to the Saints. I know that made big news because a lot of people were like, "How do you take him over Shador?" But he was a good quarterback last year. So Jeff Brom needed to do something about the quarterback position. He went out and got USC transfer Miller Moss. Miller Moss burst on the scene last year, actually against LSU, and he was cooking them. He was dotting receivers all game long. I thought Miller Moss had a great season, despite the fact that he got benched with I think 2 games left to go in the year. He ends up getting benched, which is one of the reasons why he transferred. And it wasn't all on Miller Moss. Miller Moss was under pressure, relentless pressure all of last season. That USC offensive line was porous. I think transferring into the Big Ten and transferring from the Big Ten into the ACC, a lower caliber conference, lower caliber competition. I don't think Miller Moss is going to be under the kind of pressure that he was at USC, and I think he's got some guys to help him out offensively to where you're going to see Miller Moss really flourish. At running back, you have Isaac Brown, another freshman stud running back last year, ran for over 1,100 yards. At receiver, you have Chris Bell back. You have Colin Lacey back. So two of their three top guys from last season are back at wide receiver. And they also hit the portal and got a few additions as well. So he's going to have the skill position talent to be able to perhaps replicate what he did at USC, considering the fact that I don't believe he's going to be under the same amount of duress that he was for the Trojans. And then you also got to look at schedule. They really avoid the ACC heavyweights till late in the season. When I say the ACC heavyweights, I'm referring to Clemson, who's going to come into the season as the runaway favorite to win the ACC, and for good reason. They don't play Clemson until late in the year, and they don't play SMU until late in the year. They play both of them back to back, end of the season. I believe they could be the last two ACC games on their schedule. Both teams that played in the ACC title game a year ago. That said, Louisville did go into Clemson and dominated last season. So they're not a team that's going to be intimidated by that difficult stretch at the end of the year. So again, it's the same situation. They're coming in at plus 700, but this is a team that I believe is a legitimate candidate to win the ACC. They can beat Clemson as they've proven. They went to their house and did it. I think they're going to be better than SMU, despite the fact that SMU was in the ACC title game. I think they're better than SMU. So this is a team, again, if you get to the ACC championship game, anything can happen. So I like Louisville at plus 700 as a real opportunity to win the ACC. And now let's move on to the Big Ten, and we're going to talk the Nebraska Cornhuskers. Now, this one's a little trickier, right? When you talk in the Big Ten, you got three huge favorites in Penn State, Ohio State, and Oregon. And huge favorites for good reason. And one of those three teams is likely going to win the Big Ten. That said, if you're looking for a really good value play where you could just put a few dollars on the off chance that things really break right, things really take off, I like Nebraska. So first off, starting off with quarterback Dylan Raiola. We're talking about franchise level QB play. From what I saw last year as a true freshman, I saw a guy who's going to eventually be an NFL franchise quarterback. I know he does the Patrick Mahomes stuff. He looks the part. He dresses the part. He plays the part though. That's the big thing for me is he played like Patrick Mahomes. He makes plays. Top tier arm talent, poised for a true freshman. You can only expect that he's going to continue to progress. I used to say last year in my weekly videos, anytime I had Nebraska on a game on one of these videos, I used to always say Coach Matt Rhule needs to get into the portal this offseason and get him some receivers that can match his level of talent. And I think he did it. He got Kentucky's wide receiver one from last season, Dane Key, comes and transfers in. He brought in Cal's number one or number two, depending on how you slice it, receiver, Isaiah Hunter, who was a true freshman last year, by the way, and he's probably their top receiver. He brings him in. So I think they really boosted the receiver corps. Also bring back Ja'Cory Burney, good slot receiver from last season. So Dane Key and Hunter with Burney back, I think these are some really good skill position talent on the outside for Dylan Raiola to really take off. And then while Nebraska did lose a ton defensively, and you probably see them take a step back from that, to offset that, I think you're looking at a schedule that opens the door for a breakout season. If you're looking when you're looking at a team at how they're going to perform in conference, I always like to look at their road conference schedule. They got teams like at Maryland, they're going to be terrible. At Minnesota, usually decent, but a team that they can beat. At UCLA, I think that's a bad football team. And then they do have at Penn State late in the year, obviously one of the favorites, if not the favorite, to win the Big Ten. But by that point, it who knows where Nebraska stands? They could have a real shot at making it to the Big Ten title game. Again, I'm not picking this team to win the Big Ten, but at plus 4,000 with a top quarterback who's probably going to end the season as the best quarterback in the Big Ten, reinforced skill positions. I don't think that putting a few dollars down on Nebraska is a bad bet. And then finally, we move on to our final conference, the Big 12, where we're going to talk the Baylor Bears. Baylor coming in also at plus 700 odds. Big 12 wide open just like last year. Last year, Arizona State won the Big 12, and I believe they were predicted to take second to last. So this is a conference that is very difficult to predict. This is also a conference, if you're not aware, that have a ton of returning quarterback talent. Baylor, Texas Tech, BYU, Arizona State, Iowa State, Kansas State, a ton of quarterbacks return in the Big 12. So that's contributing to this conference being wide open. So why do I like Baylor? First starts off with what I believe is the best backfield in the conference. You have Sawyer Robertson at quarterback, who was absolutely cooking last year. Probably people don't even realize it because nobody's paying attention to Baylor. They're a 500 football team, typically. They also have Bryson Washington and Dawson Pendergrass at running back. Both of them are back. They're both big, powerful, explosive backs. So I think this comprises the best offensive backfield in the conference, and I think they could really lead Baylor this season. And they have some explosive playmakers on the outside. Josh Cameron's legit. Josh Cameron looks and plays, in my opinion, like Dez Bryant, if you remember Dez Bryant at Oklahoma State. They also have probably the best tight end in the conference in Michael Trigg. Big time playmaker who can get downfield and make plays. This is not your standard 3 yards in a cloud of dust tight end. This guy makes plays down the field. So Sawyer Robertson has talent to stretch the field in Cameron and Trigg, talent to hand it off to in Washington and Pendergrass. I believe they return quite a bit of their offensive line. This should be a really explosive offense this year. Defensively, their head coach Dave Aranda is supposed to be a defensive guru. Things haven't really played out like that. He's a 500 coach since he's been here, and the defense has really just been average at best. But they do bring back a lot of vets to that defense. Could count for something. But the biggest thing that I look at is this road schedule. So again, looking at conference teams when you're predicting, I look at the road schedule. Who are they playing? Baylor's playing at Cincinnati, terrible team. At Arizona, they're going to be a bad football team. At Oklahoma State, I believe that's the worst team in the Big 12. And then they have at TCU, a team that lost a ton of players. So this is a very favorable road schedule. I think you could see Baylor go undefeated in conference play as far as undefeated on the road in conference play. And then at home, they do have two heavyweights. They get Kansas State at home, and they get um, slipping on the other one, but they get two heavyweights at home, or Arizona State. They get Arizona State and Kansas State at home this season. Two games they could lose, as those are going to be two of the favorites to win the Big 12. But that said, I think Baylor's right there with them at plus 700 in a wide open conference with this kind of talent returning. I think it's the season that you could see Dave Aranda perhaps have a shot and make it to the Big 12 title game and even win it. So anyway, that wraps it up. Those are my four teams and my best value picks. For best value picks, best value predictions to win the conference championship this season. Again, I'm not picking these guys to win it. I'm just saying throw a few dollars that way and hey, see what happens. But anyways, if you like the content or if you agree with what I say or disagree, like, comment, and subscribe. As you're going to see my YouTube handle here in a few seconds. Take care.